I'm Mike Doran. I am a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C., where I also run the Center for Peace and Security in the Middle East. And I am joined today by member of Knesset Amit Halevi. Amit, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Amit, you are a member of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee in the Knesset, and you are also the chairman of a subcommittee that deals with force readiness and force buildup. And you are also one of the most interesting critics of the war, of the conduct of the war by the Israeli Defense Forces, and one of the most interesting, I would say, observers. From my point of view, the reason I was eager to have an interview with you is that you occupy this very interesting position where, as a member of the Defense and Foreign Affairs Committee, you're able to get very, very up-to-date, accurate information about what's actually going on the battlefield, but you're also able to talk about it. Because people in the government, they have to, for reasons of prudence, they have to negotiate with Washington. They have to deal with political pressures. They can't say everything that's going on. So I see we can get a kind of different story from you. I'm sorry, I'm talking more than I'm letting you talk.
No.
But I forgot to tell our audience as well that you're also from the Likud party.
Yes. Okay, great to be here, Mike. We hear you a lot in Israel, and indeed, I'm a member in this committee and chairman of the Readiness and Building Forces subcommittee. And unfortunately, there is a lot of things to criticize in this war. So please.
I want to have as wide-ranging a discussion as possible. Let's go all the way back to October 7 and even before October 7. I read an article in which you criticized the conduct of the war by saying that the IDF leadership never implemented the findings of the Vinograd Commission coming out of the Second Lebanon War. That was in 2006. Can you just tell us a little bit about those findings of the Vinograd Commission and what you think that was not instilled in the IDF?
I'll tell you what. Maybe we need to start one step before in the main issue to recognize who is your enemy. I mean, who is our enemy actually? The free world enemy today. And I think that was the big mistake of the IDF leadership, because they didn't really understand. I'm not sure they understand today, but they didn't really understand who is the enemy. And that's the reason why the former IDF intelligence forces commander, Tamir Hyman, said there will not be any attack. Well, it's crazy to say there will be attack. And why? And he said, you don't even need to look for the evidence, what we call in the intelligence forces evidential science. Yes. Now, just remember the woman, the soldiers that said it's not exercise. This is war, and people.
These are the Tatzpitaniot,
Tatzpitaniot, and also the Al-Khutaniot, meaning 8 to 100, our special intelligence unit. They said, you're talking nonsense. It's fiction. It's science fiction. What you said, and that's what he said. He said we don't need even to see the evidential science, and why we should look for the interests. And when he said, he was the former and also the current intelligence forces commander, said we need to look on the interest. He intend to the economic interest, social economic.
So we're talking
interest.
about the Hamas leadership, and there was a conception that developed that the Hamas leadership had become a manager of the Gazan economy rather than a jihadi organization seeking to attack Israel.
There was a conception, a misconception that said Hamas cares about money. It's all about money, although in front of them there was a very, very strong ideological enemy. I mean, you can see the religious ideology. I mean, there was no doubt about it. All the intelligence, by the way, information, materials were full of only religious discourse. Secular friends of mine that heard that the conversations between Muhammad Def and Sinwar, they couldn't hear if you were not a strong religious by yourself. You couldn't understand this type of discourse. And still they said, it's all about money. Yes, he would not take a risk. He has $1 billion or something in French. He have, by the way, real estates and companies in the United States of America, Hamas. Yes, and he has a stock market company in Turkey, and he has companies in Africa. So he would not take this risk. That was the conception. And what is the problem in this conception? They don't understand and they don't recognize the real enemy, and the real enemy is the ideology, and it's aligned with the fact that how to tackle with this type of enemy, because if you think it's only issue of materialist issues, you don't do what you need to do.
But you had so many rounds of conflict with Hamas. I mean, Hamas kept coming back time and time again. How is it that this conception took over the entire? Apparently, there was no debate about this. Am I right? As far as you know,
no debate about what?
About the motives and of Hamas and the likelihood of war.
Generally, you're right, but in fact, every time that they need to bring this, to analyze to the cabinet, what's the status today? They said Hamas is deterred. Hamas is deterred time after time because they wouldn't risk the money. And I'm saying it today because I think that today, nothing has been changed. I mean, even about Iran, there is this conception which is the same, the head of the snake conception. Take the head of the snake, cut it off. Yes, the Iranian regime, which is very important to do so, no doubt about it. They are enemy, they should be destroyed, totally destroyed. Yes, but still they are not the head of the snake. The head of the snake is the ideology. I mean, they are investing in ideology in Europe, in South America, as you know, in Africa, from Mauritania to Sudan. They have 7 or 8 states that Iranian regime leaders are not Iranian patriots. They care nothing about Iran. They don't care about Iran. They are not Iranian patriots. They are dedicated to one thing, to the religious revolution. When they build the revolutionary guard, it's not a revolution inside Iran. It's the Syrian international revolution. So we need to understand with whom we have this war. And that has a very important outcome. In order to defeat Hamas, in order to have total victory, you must make deradicalization and not demilitarization, because the enemy is the ideology. Means you need to take over the land, because this is the war of this ideology. They see this land as waqf, as you know, holy land. And this is only the first stage. In their globe, they have nothing but one border, between Dar el-Islam and Dar el-Harb. Means the land that belongs to the Islam, that were in the past conquered by the Islam, and the rest of the world that need to complete the war. So in order to defeat, in order to have, as our Prime Minister say, total victory means to defeat the ideology, to take over the land, to take over the population in order to do de-radicalization. I want to end with one thing. You have 2 good examples, yes, and the Americans that hear us now, that you have 2 good examples and 2 bad examples. 2 good examples is Japan and Germany, and 2 bad examples are Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, the 2 cases that the free world actually took over and re-educate the population, otherwise we were in a horrible status today, and the 2 cases that you want, to control and not control, and the outcome is very clear today in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And we have the same enemy character, Mike. We have enemy that has racist vision. Okay, it's not ethnic, but it's according to the religious. If you're not a Muslim, in their extreme school of thought, so you can't actually live. Yes, you can be maybe second-class human being. They have totalitarian aspiration to take over the whole world, and they have the barbarian methods. And they do exactly what the Nazi regime did in 90 years ago. They take over different countries, like the Nazis did with Czechoslovakia, with Austria, with Poland. They develop nuclear weapon, and they have this horrible vision. That's why we have the same enemy, and we need to use the same methods in order to defeat it.
Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to identify the mistakes in strategic thinking about how to deal with this enemy as you've described it, and then the changes in strategy that we need going forward. But let's go back to the question of building the right kind of force, because I go back again to the Vinograd Commission, because they looked at the commission looked at the behavior of the IDF in Lebanon in 2006, and it said you were not prepared for the war that you actually had to fight. And what were the recommendations that you think were not implemented?
The major recommendation that wasn't implemented was to invest and to train the ground forces. I mean, Vinograd committee actually came to conclusion that in that war, I mean, Second Lebanon War, the Air Force was the manager. There is such a definition in our army. The Air Force was the manager of the war arena. And actually, there was an grounded operation in the end, but actually the army was not ready to ground operation.
So there's no ground game. The IDF doesn't have a ground game.
And he thinks, and I'm sorry to say, and unfortunately till nowadays, that our army is actually based on three things: intelligence, air forces, and special operations.
Right.
You can't win a war. You can have a good, a special operation, and you bring a mass of soldiers into one point, into one pier, into one tunnel. So you win this tunnel, but you can lose the war. Yes. In order to win the war, you need think about our real enemies. We have now Hamas has no air forces, no tanks. Yes, we're talking about enemies around us that have a real army. Yes?
Correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a military that is led by Air Force officers and Special Forces officers, their very understanding of what war is very different than if you have officers who came out of armor and have a sense that warfare is all about capturing territory.
Definitely. And you need to train the brigades of all of our ground units. I mean, it's not been done for years. It's not been done. Look what's happened. We have 365 square kilometers in Gaza. It's not a large. It's not a large field. I mean, it's not. It should be ended after 2 months, 3 months.
In
3 months maximum.
In 1956, the IDF took all of Gaza and all of Sinai in about 8 days. Warfare was different then. I mean, it's not a fair. It's not a completely fair.
And in
comparison.
67 war, we dealt with 3 armies, serious armies, and it took 6 days. And today we are after 15 months, Mike, 15 months, and we did not conquer yet the piece of land. It's unbelievable.
So do you you're in a very privileged position to understand the debates that are going on now. How much has it become the consensus that Israel needs to develop a stronger ground force?
No, I mean, in the committee, this voice has been uploaded. I mean, we talked about it, but I'm saying again, unfortunately, the current system, the current leaders of our system, not in my eyes, not really understand the needs, because they don't understand the environment, the Middle East. And that's why even in Nagel committee, I think those things were published already, so I'm not saying here something secret, but the investment in the ground forces.
Just for the audience, the Nagel committee was a committee set up by a former IDF general about how to build a new force.
Yes.
And
After October 7th.
After October 7th. And the recommendations were, one of the criticisms which I heard, I assume this is where you're coming from,
Yes.
they called for, once again, building up the Air Force.
Yes, actually, they postponed the investment, the needed, the essential investment in our ground forces, and that's exactly the same misconception. The thing that Iran is the head of the snake. I mean, this is our enemy. By the way, Iran itself see all the nuclear weapon and what it does actually as an umbrella to the conventional war to take over Israel.
You have to do both. You have to go after the umbrella and you have to go on the ground.
The real threat, of course, we need to destroy the Iranian regime. We have no problem with the Iranian people. Most of it, the majority of the people of Iran, by the way, don't want this regime. We need, by the way, to do it. I mean, we have a historical opportunity in Trump administration, and I heard what he said to first of all to do this what he has already did, actually the paralyzing sanctions against Iran, but it's not enough. The most important thing in the Iranian issue is the Iranian regime, and that's why besides the paralyzing sanctions and besides the military operations and besides all those things, including the political isolation, which I hope will be after the Russia-Ukraine will be managed. So the Iranian regime, we can isolate him from Russia and maybe even from China. After all those things, we need to invest in the opposition, in the Iranian opposition, because the problem is not the Iranian bombs. It's not only the Iranian bombs, but the Iranian regime. When you have a regime with extreme ideology, this is the formula that actually, this is the root problem. So we need to wipe out the regime, the Iranian regime. So the most important thing is to invest in the Iranian opposition. We have very good people there. We need just to invest a lot of money in order to give them the capabilities to do what they need to do. Actually, to liberate the Iranian people. This is the target.
Let me tell you a story, and get your reaction to it and see if it's accurate. So you have this surprise attack on October 7th. There's an intelligence failure, but then there's also a failure of force construction, so that there was no ground force to go. You had to send special forces. You had to send special forces to go protect the Gaza envelope rather than serious ground forces. And then Israel got bogged down in this conflict in Gaza for months, and there was a growing awareness that there was this missing muscle, the ground forces. And then came this remarkable turnaround. Really, I think one of the most remarkable military comebacks in history. And I'm talking about the pagers in Lebanon, and then the killing of Nasrallah, and then the attacks on Iran, which shifted the balance. And basically, the attacks in Lebanon, primarily the air attacks, hollowed out Hezbollah significantly. And leading eventually to the fall of the Assad regime, or at least laying the groundwork for the Assad regime. So what I'm trying to say here is that the second part of the war, as we've seen it so far, was a triumph of the old conception of the old defense conception based on Air Force intelligence and special forces. So they kind of had a comeback. Has that changed the debate or the sense in Israel of what is needed to do? I mean, it seems to me that your call for stronger ground forces would have been, everyone would have said, yes, this is obvious 6 months ago. But today, maybe there's a new feeling.
But look what's going on in Lebanon. I mean, what is the? I mean, it was. Unbelievable.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm wondering, is it the case? I can see how the people who want to keep the old conception alive would have something to argue with now. Are they doing that?
No, so they're doing it, but I think they're wrong. I mean, this is the same mistake, because look what's going on in Lebanon. I mean, it was a very important hit, and as you said, it shifted the balance after the horrible beginning of this war. But still, Hezbollah is a very dominant and strong power in Lebanon today.
Yes,
there are dozens of violating of the agreement, the ceasefire agreement with Lebanon. Hezbollah demanded actually, I think, 5 ministers or maybe 6 even for the Shian groups. I mean, Amal and Hezbollah. I think he got last week 2 or 3 ministers in the government in a way that he actually, elects the people, but it's not registered as Hezbollah people because of the new American administration pressure. But they are still there.
Yeah.
And the war should be ended, that Hezbollah is out of Lebanon, like Arafat was out of Lebanon in 1982. That should be the outcome. That should be the bottom line. And it's not. I mean, in order to defeat, and I'm not saying that our prime minister is, he stood in the last year in horrible pressures. Actually, never ever Israel stood under this pressure, and especially from our friends in Washington. I mean, in Biden administration, I saw it over the year. It's worse than people think.
I'm gonna ask you about that.
One time, it was. I think this was our prime minister mentioned this, that Biden, before the Rafah operation, actually called him and he told him, "You will be along. If you go there, you will go along." So the prime minister told him, "So we will do it along." Yes, and then from time to time the administration was not sure that Biden was very clear for some reasons, so they sent Anthony Blinken. 2 days later, he landed in Jerusalem, went to the prime minister's office, and said in the closed room, very, very
Bluntly.
Yes, in my eyes, in a very brutal and brutal way and phrase of the things and threats on Israel and many bad things. And the prime minister told him, "We will fight. If you don't come with us, we will do it alone." And we did it alone. So I'm saying he stood. It was a heroic standing of our prime minister over the year. I'm not jealous. Many people, like me and others, were maybe collapsed after 1 month or 2 months. So I have no complaints. I mean, he did unbelievable work, but still, the outcome of the war, including Lebanon, and after what you have just said about the shifting and the new balance because of our attacks, and very important attacks in Iran, in Lebanon, still the outcome is not total victory. Yet, I hope now we have new administration, we have new IDF, chief of IDF that actually will start in 2 weeks from now, Eyal Zamir, a new Minister of Defense. I hope all those 3 new positions actually will make this.
But the kind of reforms you're talking about, the building of a ground force, that's a process that takes years. No, I mean, there's an acquisition of material, training. This isn't something you can do overnight.
You're right, but in order to take over Gaza Strip and to make a real change, especially now the new Trump plan, actually, which I think should be implemented and can be implemented actually if we work right. I mean, there will not be boots on the ground. I mean, we will not. Nobody will make the work for us. We need to do it by ourselves, but we need to plan it, military plan. So for this area, we can do it. You're right. We need a total different preparation for the next war in terms of our ground forces. But for Gaza, we need mainly to change our military thinking. It's not. It's a big change, yes, relatively to the current way of thinking of our military leaders about what is victory, what is.
So let's focus for a second on that question. From October 7th up until the ceasefire, the latest ceasefire agreement, what was the definition of victory? The Israeli government's definition of victory, and what was the debate about it? Because it seems to me that I see 2 different conceptions working in friction with each other. One says Israel has to have overall security control of the Gaza Strip. That really means a prolonged occupation, without using that word. But then I see another conception that says that we have to eliminate Hamas as a serious military organization. What I never see on the ground is any sign that the IDF is dismantling Hamas as the ruling political organization. I see destroying and degrading it as a military formation, but I don't see the destruction of it as a political organization. Am I wrong, or is there?
No. You're definitely right. But let's say the definition was very clear. I mean, the cabinet in October 7 night. I mean, in the evening of October 7, he very clear. He decided very clear targets and the goals to this war, and he said destruction of eliminating of Hamas civic and military power in the.
So what's the plan for destroying it as a civic organization, as a as the civil leadership? I don't see it.
Yes, first of all, you can see it because nobody did real things about it. Although I shouted, weekly basis in the committee, do this, do that, they didn't do it, and the reason is, and by the way, even the military forces, and it's a point that we must make it clear. In Arabic, you said din wa dawla, means a religious and statehood or state. Yes, religion state means there's no really difference. There's not really difference between the civic systems to the religious system. There is no civic system in Gaza. I mean, all the systems are geared towards the jihad. There is no school in Gaza for the last 17 years. No school. I mean, there was the floor, the ground floor. Yes, that there were the missiles and the storage and the headquarters of the Hamas, and there were the second floor, which seems like classroom. But actually, what happened in the class is how to use the missiles that were underground. I mean, this is school in Gaza Strip, and that's what I'm saying now. It's a daily basis in all the systems, all the things. By the way, I urge you, and I urge you. I don't need to tell it to you, of course, but to all of our viewers, just read the Hamas charter. It's so clear. 90 years ago, what was the Nazi regime? People said, we don't know, we didn't know. I mean, what was behind the trees in Auschwitz-Birkenau? It's not behind the trees. It's here. It's clear.
So explain to me the debate, the Israeli debate about what to do about this. What's the debate that's gone on? Trump has maybe changed the debate now with the Trump plan. But before the Trump plan, what was the debate over the last year?
Truly,
yeah,
the real debate here regarding the fact that the Jewish people has more experience in exile, in galut, than in sovereignty. This is the real issue, Mike. I'm sorry to say it. But we still, after 76 years of our new independence, national life, we still don't really know to take over, to do what we need to do, not to be ashamed. By the way, it's our land. Gaza is part of our homeland, by the way. We don't need to go there, on our fingers. Okay,
but this is the public debate. But what about when the prime minister is meeting with Herzl Halevi and they're talking about what to do in Gaza? When the people in the security cabinet are discussing these issues, because they see the same reality that you do, that the civil authorities, the Hamas is still running the show in Gaza, even if it doesn't have the rockets to shoot anymore.
Mike, they don't really understand it. I'm sorry to say. This war, it's about terms and values in the Israeli debate. It's about terms and values. They don't really know what is victory. Look about victory. They said we are deconstructing Hamas. What do you mean deconstruct? It's new terms. No army use it. No army used it.
How do you say deconstructing in Hebrew?
Deconstructing, Peruk. They said Peruk. It was 2 hours of discussion in our Matkal, in our military forum, leadership forum, about if to call it mitut or Peruk. I mean, deconstruct or I don't know. Anyway, nonsense. nonsense. I'm sorry, but 30 years of anti-military education in our army forces, anti-military education, caused to this failure before October 7. And I'm sorry to say, since October 8 until today, this is not a less failure than October 7. October 7, in a way, we were surprised. But from October 8, we should do totally different things. And we didn't do because these terms and values about not only what I mentioned before, who is human being, if he is like, the neo-Marxist point of view, to look on Sinwar and to say it's only about money, it's only about economy, it's only about the social status struggles, or it's about ideology, about identity, yes? From this, and again, what is victory, and what is land, and what is God, and what is religious, all these terms were actually after 30 years of neo-Marxist education of our military leaderships, this is the outcome.
It strikes me that part of the reason why they didn't come up with a clear policy for dismantling, destroying Hamas as a political organization is the American pressure. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you have said openly, I think you're one of the first here to really say openly that there was an American embargo under the Biden administration of weapons. And so the government and the military, they had to think twice about defying the Americans. And the Americans were coming in and saying, the Biden administration was saying, we have to have a revitalized Palestinian Authority. You have to think about the day after. And the day after, we want a ceasefire now, which is going to leave Hamas in power, and we want the Palestinian Authority involved. So all of these questions about dismantling Hamas as the ruling civil authority, they're bound up in the debate with the Americans. Was this on people's minds, do you think?
I mean, here in Israel, it was very clear. The embargo was not it was not published till Benjamin Netanyahu made this film in June, and actually declared that we are under American embargo, which was many people here were shocked about it. I myself, I knew it from April, actually, because in my subcommittee, actually, the woman from the Ministry of Defense actually described us that we have a huge list of munition that we didn't get then from the American. And I said, what's going on? Why didn't you get them? What's the problem? I said, no, there is this export permission that, formally the Americans. I said, so what about it? They gave us all over the years. They will give us, they gave us yesterday. They will give us tomorrow. What about today? Why they didn't give it? So she said it began in January, Mike. It began in January. And she said, no, I called them. They said he's in vacation for 2 weeks. Yes, don't call us. We'll call you. Yes, okay. Did you call them?
The American who can give the approval for the export control,
exactly.
He's on vacation.
In the White House, I think he was one of the people under Barbara Leaf there in the White House under Anthony Blinken. So they bring
that'd be in the State Department.
In the State Department, yes. They should bring the confirmation to the Congress, and then to take it back, and then to give the weaponry to the ships. And then she said, no, so I said, okay, that's what in the end of January. What did you do 2 weeks later? So she said, I called him again, and they said, no, he has a problem with his kids. He's home today. And then one of the...
So different excuse each day.
Different excuses each day. And then the guy from our National Security Council said, Member Knesset Halevi, let me do it simple. We are under American embargo. Mm-hmm. I was shocked. I went out. It was in April. What we're doing with this, yes? And finally, our Prime Minister, in June, it was in the middle of the election in the States, he just said, we are under embargo. And by the way, that made the work.
It shook the Americans out. Because it activated pressure in Congress.
Yes,
people started
in Congress
asking
and from the public and John Kirby went out after the Prime Minister said, we don't know what he's talking about, the Prime Minister of Israel. It's only the bombs that Biden formally and publicly declared that there are.
Yeah, he mentioned one shipment,
One
2,000
shipment
pound
in North
bombs.
Carolina of 2,500 of bombs. So I went out in my network and I said, we know exactly what the Prime Minister is talking about. Exactly. We have the list, and unfortunately, QB didn't say the truth. And so we had really very strong pressure from the American administration. Today it's different. That's why I really hope that our government will do everything it can in order to implement Trump plan, because now we have a totally different umbrella. We talked about the Iranian umbrella, but we have the American umbrella to do what we need to do. And first, in order to do it, the first thing is to declare publicly and loudly that we have today, that this is our generation mission, to wipe out, to take off the new neo-Nazi regime. It's not only Hamas and Iran, it's this ideology that the free world must treat totally different, and not to again with the silent that we had in the 30s of the last century.
Is it your impression that the American policy is going to give you the support to do that?
No, definitely. I mean, Trump is large scale. I mean, all this immigration project, immigration plan, which, by the way, this is not a new idea. I mean, it was in many cases in the past. I mean, after the Second World War, with the Germans, millions of Germans that actually were forced to immigrate back to Germany and of course Turkey and Greek and
after World War I, exchange of
after World
populations.
War I, and India and Pakistan. I mean, when you have a war zone with horrible, status, as President Trump well described, and you have and the world is ready to resettle them in different places. Millions of Syrians and Libyans and everywhere. Many people in the Middle East actually immigrated to Europe, Turkey, wherever.
Jews left.
Of course.
Came here.
Only the Palestinians, when South Africa and all those this industry of lies, but said, this is here. They are refugees. Okay, so do something about it. And this is the opportunity. Israel cannot actually miss this historical opportunity. We need to prepare our army. It's a unique mission to make the forces to plan how our forces are actually building humanitarian areas, and all the people are coming there in order to immigrate. And it's hard because after this ceasefire, the conditions are different, unfortunately, but we need to start from more or less from scratch, but to plan it totally differently than Herzl Halevi did. In
do you have the feeling that this is happening, that the planning is going on now?
So I'll tell you what, there is the hostages deal now, and that's why there's still delay. But actually, tomorrow we have a discussion in the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, so I can give you a better answer. But this is the mission of the new chief of IDF, to make this immigration plan, to take off the border. No more border between Gaza and Ashkelon and Sderot. No more border. Maybe there will be one or two communities that, but generally we need to prepare all the forces. It of course depends in the countries that will be ready to take them but that's also Trump power in order to press that to do this, to leverage this opportunity in different countries. But we need to do in the ground to push them and to let them the option, first of all, to get out. I mean, today they are under siege. Besides Egypt, that gives to few people to move through through Egypt. I mean, they are in Gaza. We don't live. I must mention that since 2007, since the cruel occupation of Hamas in June 14 till the war, there were almost 300,000 of residents of Gaza that immigrated from Gaza. I mean, most of them don't want to be there under this
conditions
pressure.
of it,
Yes, so I hope that's the direction. And again, it's our responsibility. So now Netanyahu takes the hostages. It's okay in one condition. The day after, we start this immigration plan.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Let me take you to one more issue, and that's Iran. If you were to ask me, from my own personal point of view, I would say that the number one priority, certainly for the United States, but I would say also for Israel, as I see it, is to destroy, in the short term, the number one priority, the most urgent priority, is to destroy Iran's nuclear program. Do you agree with that? Because you said some words earlier that suggested that maybe you see that as part of the wrong conception, to see that the head of the snake is the most, or the head of the octopus is the number one priority. Do you agree? And if you do, what's the chance it's going to happen?
No.
You don't agree?
No, I don't agree. Not because it's not important. I mean, we must destroy the nuclear weapon, and I'm very glad that President Trump and Netanyahu, are one-to-one. They're in the same opinion about it, and I'm sure they will do it. But again, even about Iran, the most important in the Iran arena, is the regime, not the nuclear, not the missiles, and not the proxies. They are all important, but they are only the fruits, Mike. I mean, the rotten fruits, the outcomes. The root is, in the case of Iran, is the regime. And we need to take off the regime. This is the real target. And more than that, I will tell you, the head of the octopus is even not this regime, is the ideology. Khomeini, actually, when he thought for 20 years, I think, in Paris, in different places when he built this regime, he thought, what will happen if the regime will collapse? The revolution will stay. That's why they invest the money in Africa, in Europe, in Washington, D.C. That's why we need to be very clear about the enemy. And the enemy is the ideology. And why I said it, because, of course, we need to take off the nuclear weapon. But more than that, we need to say this ideology is not legitimate anymore. I mean, when I wake up in the morning and I see that this Iranian regime has a finger in the United Nations, it's a shame for the free world. It's a shame from the free world. So we have a problem with the right definition. I'll give you an example from the battlefield of Gaza. From the beginning of the war, I asked them, why you don't why you don't kill the Imam of Rafah? The Imam of Rafah and everywhere else, yes, Khan Yunis, whatever. He called for destruction of Israel, to rape the women, to kill them, every daily basis, by the way, and on Friday, and very loudly. Why? So they tell me, what do you mean? If you have a commander in the Hamas army and you have the Imam, who you take first? Who you kill first? So you agree with us that first of all the commander. I said, no. I mean, if he shoot on you, Mike, so take him off. But no, the Imam is a cluster bomb. He's not a bomb. He is a cluster bomb. I mean, he creates dozens of bombs. He is the infrastructure of the war. And if the free world do not understand that this is the war, so we will invest in the wrong targets. Again, the nuclear weapon of Iran is not a wrong target. We need to take it off. But the real target is the ideology and the infrastructure. And one more thing, with your permission, when I said, so what you're doing is this is your enemy, you defeat in his terms. For example, in Gaza, if we do not take over the land which this enemy, this ideology, consider to be the victory, so we will not have victory. We need to take over the land. If we not re-educate the population, so we do not have a victory. We must have a victory in their terms, what they consider to be benefits of the war, what they consider to be a victory, not in our terms. We need to defeat this victory everywhere, every place, in the neighborhoods in Paris and in Gaza.
I got 45 seconds left. I have a slight disagreement with you. Maybe it's actually a major disagreement with you. I won't have time to pursue it here. But let me just end with this last question. The most urgent priority, so in terms of time, I would say is the nuclear program. Will you agree with that? The thing that has to be
in terms
done.
of-
The thing that has to be done next week, next month.
yes, yes,
We can agree on that.
we can agree on that, and we can agree more than that. That we can do it. We can do it. I mean, especially in joint forces of America and the United States, we can do it. But I must tell you, it will be, it will be rebuilt.
What if Trump says
it will be rebuilt again?
I know where you're going. I know
If the ideology,
I got it. But what if Trump says no? What if Trump says no?
No, I don't think Trump says. Trump actually says two things: or you have backing to do it, or I'm a partner to do it. But I think he wants. He was very clear about it. I think he also felt the noise of it near his ear. He felt the noise, something of the outcome of this snake. So
the attempt to kill him.
He understands it very well. So I think we are in the right direction in terms of the Iranian. But the best will be to take off the regime.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much. That was very clear. I really appreciate it. And I hope to have you back and maybe we can argue a bit.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to be here.
And that brings our program to an end. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you back soon.